And I think this is really something we need to be aware of. This is the mode that the Russian president is keeping a society in anger and in war against someone. And we should also look at in longer terms. We have a lot of younger people here. This whole story started immediately after the Soviet Union fall apart. Look at Moldova, Transnistria, Georgia in 2008, Ukraine 2014 onward. So I think this is the real issue, that Russia has not overcome its post-imperial kind of legacy. It's not becoming a normal state. It still behaves like in the 19th century. And I think this is something that Russia's internal development has to perform, to develop a civil society, to develop a kind of democratic outlook. And of course, we know that the real democratic voices out of Russia, like Irina Shcherbakova and others. There are representatives, but I think this is something Russia needs to overcome, this post-imperial kind of situation. And when you ask me when the next negotiations should take place, tomorrow. I mean, this should now be an ongoing process and on a daily basis. We should not lose the momentum. And I think Chancellor Merz is aware of that. That's why I think this Berlin process that started yesterday will not end until this kind of ceasefire, at least, will be reached.
Yeah, thank you, Rana. I only want to welcome Mrs. Ivana Klympush-Tsyntsadze, Chair of the Committee of Ukraine's Integration into the EU and working in the Interparliamentary Network United for Ukraine. Ms. Klympush, you can hear us?
After you said how we are coming forward to this, is it?
Yeah.
Was it the end of the question?
No. It's only wanted to know about something about the status of this EU integration process where you're working in.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy that another platform is being organized for discussion between Ukraine and Germany. And let me start from the huge gratitude for Germany for what it has done up till now in terms of both helping us to withhold the Russian aggression, but also to help us to go through different accession stages, starting from the decision of granting Ukraine with the candidate status. I think it's critical that just last week the European Union has found a creative way how to, irrespectively of the Orban's veto, go ahead with the technical promotion of the Ukrainian accession process. So the ball is right now in Ukraine's court with regard to internal transformation. And irrespectively of the war, we are addressing a lot of different reform issues here. Obviously, for me, it would be preferable if we did this with a bigger speed. And I do hope that maybe right now this new creative decision and solution from the European Commission and the European Council under the Danish presidency will lead us to additional kind of mobilization internally, both on the parliamentary level, on the executive level, backed by the Ukrainian civil society to carry out the reform that has to be addressed, and that is the internal necessity of the internal reform within the EU. And I think that this is important, that these processes of enlargement and internal EU reform are happening in parallel and are not used to hold one another, because I think that this is the real geopolitical answer. The enlargement is real geopolitical answer to many issues, not only with regard to Ukraine, but also with regard to other nations that are aspiring to join the Union. So therefore, totally agreeing that the process has to be merit-based, and that but at the same time, we have to understand that for Ukraine, speed and quality, or speed versus quality is a rather false dilemma. So for us, it's important that this process would be having a much more clearer benchmarks and predictable, time-bound sequencing and stronger pre-accession instruments at this point. So I do hope rather, that the EU will kind of remobilize itself in terms of addressing those issues and have the answers to those questions also internally, again, irrespectively of when the Ukraine's European accession will take place. Therefore, I think that process that has been started in 2022, 2023, when we saw the suggestions from, I believe, was a German-French way of addressing the internal reform. I think in 2024, 2025, we have a bit slowed down with that process of addressing these issues. Also for Ukraine, it's important that we are looking together to the additional assistance instruments for Ukraine, because it's the only country that has been trying to transform itself during the full-scale invasion, during the war, while being brutally attacked, while bleeding. And I hope that that will find the additional response within the European Union. In the meantime, here, the Parliament and the government right now are working on the national plan of transposing European acquis, and I hope that by the beginning of the next year we will have that, based also on the three draft negotiating positions from the European Union that we have received in Lviv last week. But at the same time, that needs additional reinvigoration of the process here, and that means that we have to have a clear magnifying lens of attention from our partners in the European Union on the processes that are happening here, and clear prioritization of those tasks that are to be addressed in the nearest time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Only want to add that our institute, the reason why we are sitting here is that we had only 4-6 months after the beginning of the war against Ukraine, we had a project, and we continue this project to adopt Ukrainian regulations to this one from the EU. That means we are just, there's a very technical work our institute is doing. That means that we are comparing Ukrainian regulations with European regulations, and we are adopting them. It's very hard right now. It's not in the focus of this process. It's a little bit but finally, I think it is very important work. But first of all, I think the end of the war, the most important thing. Concerning the economic situation, I only wanted to point out that yes, it's very important that German. I think yesterday at the event, it was also pointed out that it's very important that German or Western companies are able to invest right now in the Ukraine. Do you think, and I want to ask a colleague of mine, it's Mr. Bondarev, and he's a lawyer, and I only want to say, would you advise, for example, German companies to invest, to found right now a company in Kiev? Do you think the legal framework is given?
I mean, you know what? Yeah, thank you for having me here. And so I'll be speaking just from two angles. So these days I'm wearing two hats. One hat is I'm founding senior partner of a major Ukrainian law firm, right? And we do majority of our clients are international ones, Artsinga. And my second hat is I'm sitting on the board of the largest Ukrainian state-owned defense company, right? So, and we really see a lot of things happening in Ukraine now. And just answering directly your question, first of all, yes, we see a lot of interest from international companies. I have to admit that Germans are extremely cautious, as you know. So Germans are extremely conservative. We see a lot of investments and a lot of interest from Americans, from UK guys, etc. But Germans have been extremely cautious. But it has always been the case, right? I mean, even before the war, I can still remember that actually Germans have been, they do very well preparations as well as the Nordic guys, and then they step in. My recommendation is obviously to open business these days because, as we know, early bird catches the sun, right? And we also know low risk, low yield. So these days, you can get the best yield ever if you start early. We understand that the war will be over. And as soon as the war will be over, there will be plenty of opportunities. And those companies which are starting now, they are in the best position. What we've been observing during the war, for instance, those companies which used to be on the market before the war, they've been extremely active, you know. I mean, because Ukraine has introduced a number of restrictions in the currency control area. And so it's not so easy to take money out of Ukraine these days. So they have lifted the restrictions in the meanwhile. So you can now repay dividends, etc., etc. But still, a lot of money is still packed in Ukraine. And therefore, huge amount of our international clients, they've been investing into Ukraine. Our M&A pipeline has been really big. So we literally been working on major transactions for international clients who are buying assets, partners, distribution partners, etc., etc. Ukrainian state has been improving dramatically in terms of investments. Obviously, we still have a lot of Russian propaganda saying that Ukraine is corrupted, blah, blah, blah. But believe me, again, I've been on the market for 25 years and practicing as a practicing lawyer, and I do advise global corporations. Majority of my clients are Fortune 500 companies. And believe me, the investment environment these days is best. I've never seen it before. First, huge amount of deregulation. Huge amount of deregulation. So Minister of Economy, huge kudos, you guys, you've done a great job. For instance, there is a project called Investment Nannies, where the companies are getting incentives from the state of Ukraine. About 30% of investment can be like refunded to investors, right? I mean, if the project qualifies for like 12 million euro, et cetera, but still. And the Ministry of Economy is now expanding the list of the sectors which are qualifying for it. I understand that you guys are about to add energy there, right? Second, deregulation. So we still don't have FDI screening in Ukraine. Can you imagine that? We still don't have FDI screening in Ukraine. The only regulatory burden is merger control. Those who've been around, they understand that actually merger control has been pain in the ass, but still the antitrust agency works extremely good these days. So actually all major merger control clearances go like this. Obviously you have to hire a proper lawyer who understands how it works, like et cetera, but still only merger control. Obviously, there are also some sectoral regulatory requirements. If you buy a bank or insurance company or telecom company, you have to get a special clearance. This is clear. But generally, Ukraine is extremely deregulated company. Can you please try to buy, I mean, as a foreigner, to buy a real estate in Germany? Do you need me to explain you, right, how many genehmigungen you have to get, etc.? Ukraine, everybody can get so much as you want real estate. Okay, there are special restrictions for the agricultural land still. It's a big political question. And the foreign capital is not allowed yet in the agricultural land. But generally, if you want to buy a yielding property, apartment, etc., whatever, as much money you have, please. Ukraine has open privatization, huge amount. Yes, you know, Ukraine has been a state capitalist, right? But now we are putting everything for sale. Obviously, the national champions are still on the list of the companies which are not about to be privatized, but majority of state-owned assets all across the sectors are now put for sale. And again, huge work is being done now by Minister of Economy just to decrease this list of the companies and assets to be sold. And believe me, there are amazing assets. Huge hotels in the center of Kyiv, seaports, whatever. So everything is now for sale. So therefore, huge amount of opportunities. And you know what? Look at the companies which have been around on the market. You will see Volkswagen Group, Bayer, Bosch, etc. All these guys now, this particular moment when we speak, they are buying somebody, they are making JVs, etc. So think about it. get into Ukraine. And believe me, obviously, you have to be very cautious. But you know what? When I see some German companies still doing business in Germany, in Russia, and you know what? They are saying, you know what, it's very difficult to invest in Ukraine, but you guys, you still do business in Russia? And Russia is a criminal state. There is no law at all. So therefore, Ukraine, in comparison to Russia, is like paradise. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this statement. I only wanted to say that I only wanted to welcome Mr. Theodoros Grigoriadis. He's also a scientific person from Berlin University, and I only want to ask from a scientific point of view, if you could consult or advise politics, what did you do? What would you advise to do for the next steps to reach the peace, first of all, and then to that Ukraine will become a member of the European Union? From a scientific point of view, Mr. Georgiadis, what do you think about it? Okay, probably just try it again. I only want to, I only want to ask Mrs. Klympush again, for example, because she's has to go away. What do you think about the next steps concerning the EU integration? What will be the next step right now? The legal adaptation or the economic adaptation?
Yeah, well, I will address your question, but I am also listening in and tuning in to your discussion, and I can hear that you are also discussing the next steps with regard to ending the war. And I think that it would be important to address this issue as well. That's why I was trying to raise my hand. Well, with regard to European integration of Ukraine here internally, it's about a whole workload of homework that we have to address, and that is both the legal approximation, but at the same time, it's also the creation of and strengthening of the institutional capacity here. I think that this is absolutely critical for us to be a capable and a strong member of the EU. So it is about both legal and organizational and also political as well. So I think it's a complex of things on this side, but I also again and again would like to underline that this is also about a two-way street that we would continue on with our partners from the EU, and I hope that political will is not shading away and it's not fading away from the EU. That's one thing. But secondly, I'd like to use this opportunity also to definitely thank all the European partners in terms of supporting Ukraine and being the, upscaling your input in terms of us holding the ground vis-a-vis Russian Federation. But at the same time, I'd like to say that at this point, I think we are all continuously finding ourselves in the Russian trap that has been set for the American administration that they willingly stepped into, and then unfortunately they brought all of us in that responsive mode, where we right now are discussing the steps how to finish the war in response to basically Russian vision of that. I think we have to be much more proactive. I think we have to prioritize the European security, so that with understanding that Ukraine is a front line of that European security. And understand that I agree with one of my colleagues on the panel that Russia has not changed its plans and is behaving as a imperial power, hoping to continuously fight the conquering wars, and this way to by enlarging, basically surviving. And I think we should not let this happen, because it will have dire consequences, not exclusively for Ukraine or for European security. It will have dire consequences for the whole for the whole world. So if Russia, for example, didn't plan to attack Ukraine again, they wouldn't mind about Ukraine's membership in NATO, but because they would not attack NATO altogether if Ukraine was part of it. So therefore, I think we have to really rethink our common vision with regard to stopping Russia and making sure that we are using all the instruments to pressure Russia into peace, as opposed to hoping that we can talk Russia into peace, because that's not something that will lead to sustainable and lasting, not to mention just peace on the continent. And I'll stop here.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, Mr. Grigoriadis, I think right now on... right now it's possible to hear you. Thanks. Do you understand the question? Yes,
Yes, I mean, you asked me from a scholarly standpoint what would be the optimal path to peace, both from an international and a domestic perspective, and also the roadmap towards European accession. So I think that, of course, there is an international and a domestic component. On the one hand, I believe that the sanctions towards the Russian Central Bank have been by now the most successful packet of sanctions, and this is why the Russians are reacting in such an angry way, because exactly this strained liquidity that the European sanctions have caused on the Russian Central Bank are also creating lots of domestic instability, problems of inflation and liquidity for domestic business. Of course, China has come to the rescue of Russia, and this is also something that the Europeans must definitely consider here. To what extent can we afford doing business with China when they are reversing, or at least to some extent, our sanctions towards the Russian economy? And therefore, I believe that this whole issue of confiscation of Russian assets is in the right direction. And the way I would have done it would be in two steps. On the one hand, you confiscate first the profits from the assets, and then if Russia does not conform, you confiscate the assets themselves. It's obvious that, of course, this is a stretch. I mean, I would not say that the confiscation of the profits is legal, but the confiscation of the assets can be a stretch. But of course, under the war situation, and also considering the fact that Russia has destabilized the Eurozone, has destabilized the euro and its international competitiveness, and does everything it can in its power to reduce its role in emerging markets. Also consider India, for that matter, where there is a big competition between Russia and Europe, who will exert more influence on the Indian economy, which actually can be a key to many of the issues that European competitiveness and the European economy has. On the other hand, when it comes to the domestic component, I think Ukraine should already start now the reforms that are a great fit also for its European future. I would be in favor of a fast track for the European integration of Ukraine. And also, but at the same time, I would suggest that, the strengthening of state capacity of local governments is also key for this process. All this money, all this international aid money that will come to Ukraine after the war is over, must be, of course, coordinated centrally, but also must also be handed over locally. So there needs to be a hybrid reconstruction model between following both a centralized and a decentralized path. So all this money should offer the incentives to local governments to implement these aid contracts at the local level, but also it should strengthen the capacity of the ministries, and that would be responsible for the oversight of resilience process in Ukraine. I think this is very, very important because, of course, Ukrainian security and Ukrainian development are very much connected with state capacity. And the Ukrainian government, also the partners of Ukraine, we should do everything in our power to increase not only the capacity and transparency at the central level, but also at the local level. Because, of course, what is very important is that people themselves, the citizens of Ukraine, feel the benefits of European integration. And this whole thing does not stay just among some elites.
Thanks a lot. Do you think, also a question to you and also to Mr. Telupa, I only want to ask, do you think it would be necessary not only to confiscate this money and these assets, but also to make a special economic program in Ukraine to attract Western companies? Do you think about this? There are some plans concerning this?
Yeah. I think there are discussions, and I think that can I answer? Yes.
You can answer then, Mr. Chalupa. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. So yes, there are certain discussions, and of course it's also much cheaper to go directly to the regions, to go directly to the hromadas, go directly to the oblasts, with of course the support of the central government. I think a regionally decentralized and diffuse economic program for Ukraine would produce much more efficient results than having everything running through Kiev. And I think that this would also satisfy, could be designed along the security guarantees, along the distribution of European forces that, of course, would have to be present on the territory of Ukraine as part of the peace deal.
Yeah, okay. And also, like, to add from the point of the government, so we are working a lot about attracting foreign and European companies mainly to Ukraine. We are really open about it. We are like providing in different incentives right now, like up to 70% of compensation on capital expenditures to build new plants. And just like an example, so like even companies shouldn't wait for some peace because like for last 2 years we have more than 100 new factories and plants built in Ukraine, and mainly with the support of Western companies. And so we are really very open about it. So like and also like we are discussing with European Commission, with all our bilateral government agreements about providing also like special support for companies, for example, from Germany coming to Ukraine, about like special, first of all, it's special blended finance to reduce the cost, also about the risking. So we are providing political war risk and war risk insurance, so to cover all risks for possible investors even right now. Because like we see it also like a, like for us it's a like not just economic reason, but sure, like Ukraine will be the biggest rebuilding and like market for in the world for the next decade, and so it will be a great investment opportunity. But also we see it like as a point like of our strategic partnership and the it's question of our security, because like we want your companies to be much more involved in Ukraine. We want to be integrated in European like strategic like supply chains, value added chains, and so to make really like be a part of European market, nevertheless like political decision about like EU accession, etc. So for us, like that's the choice we already made. And we are trying to make everything to make it more like attractive, to make it more affordable for European companies to come even right now. And so we all waiting a big like economic increase after some like ceasefire, but even now like for last 3 years our economy is growing. The statistics of like GDP growing for November is 5.3%, and so like and also we see Ukraine can be big also like interesting for like military defense, but also dual use defense. So like because it's pushing all civil sectors, and for example they have now more than 300 producers of drones, and now they're expanding their operation to export, to having joint ventures, but also to like some such civil sectors as automobile cluster. Ukraine is still like producing a lot of different parts for German cars, for example, and all German companies which were operating in Ukraine before the full-scale invasion, they're still in Ukraine and they're still working. They're all profiting, and so like that's very important, because like Ukraine is rather like safe even right now to have operation. So that's why we are really like very open about it. We change almost all like legislation to make it more fast, because we can be fast and innovative. Now in Ukraine you can like we have examples when Western companies, they received all needed documents, land and build the plant in less than a year. So usually you can build now the plant in Ukraine and to receive profit faster than you just receive documents in Western Europe, for example. So that's what we are trying to give to possible investors, to be very fast, to be very innovative, and to be very open from the side of the government, because it's really a foreign investor like a holy cow right now, and usually the full support from and local authorities and also the central government.
Thanks a lot. Yes, Rainer, could you comment this also?
Just a couple of last words on the economy, and I just want to confirm what the minister was saying. We were happy to bring a big delegation in July to Ukraine, to Lviv and Kyiv. We were visiting also the ministries and also the companies on the ground. And it's so important to be there. And I think since yesterday, there is a new regulation, hopefully coming up the next weeks, from the German government, allowing or differentiating the travel ban of the Foreign Office. So it's safer to go to Western Ukraine rather than not going at all to Ukraine. So this is, I think, very helpful for entrepreneurs to go into the country, to have their own experiences. And also the deregulation that was mentioned is, I think, something very incentive for governments. We were able and happy to announce a economic partnership between Baden-Württemberg and Lvivska Oblast, which is another step into this area also for our companies. And I think this is where the music plays after the war in the business in Europe, I think. And German business will support recovery of Ukraine, definitely. And since this is my last statement, Slava Ukraini.
And just to reflect this point about travel restrictions, I'm also responsible for insurance market development in Ukraine, and so we're receiving data from international insurance companies. So the mortality rate right now in Kyiv is less than in London. So it's safer to travel to Kyiv than to London. So that's just data.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I have to finish right now this first panel. I only want to thank you very much for all these panelists. We're talking about the political situation. It's rather it's not simple to find. To find a really result. For me, it's very important that you got the aim of this conference. We really want to make or to construct a platform with experts, where experts were able to discuss problems in detail, and coming from the legislative side, coming from the economic side, or coming from the military side, and that we have the possibility here to construct every year some kind of platform of basis where we can discuss some questions in detail. And I hope that you got the idea that this conference will be one of the first step to this, and I think our institute has experience concerning the organization of this kind of conferences. Thank you very much for you. Thank you for participation. I think it's a big effort from you.